In my previous videos, I talked about how consciousness goes up and down along a spatial axis to ascend higher and lower realities. Now let's actually ground this more into physics. Now there's something known as Snell's law. This is, put simply, how to calculate the angle of refraction between two different mediums of density. Just think you putting a straw and a glass of water. It's going to be at a slightly different angle and look somewhat askew. Now, if you take the angle of incident, or the sine of the angle of incident, and the angle of refraction and divide them, you get n, which is a constant. In this case, it is the constant speed of energy or light through a certain medium. And this was used by Johann Bernoulli in 1697 to help calculate the angle of fastest descent. Now, the angle of fastest descent is, imagine there's a marble at the top of a hill, and then there's an endpoint. So this would be the alpha point of pure potential energy and the omega point of fully expended energy. Now the question is, what is the angle, what's the curve that would get this marble from the top to the bottom in the least amount of time? So he had actually taken this problem and turned it from a problem of mechanics and physical forces into a problem of optics. So he had taken the Snell's law and essentially flipped it, switched it around. He had imagined there's a bunch of different layers of denser and slightly less and slightly less and slightly less dense media. So just think like a multi-layered cake. And as light goes from the densest medium, the highest layer, to lower and lower and lower, the speed increases, but also the angle slightly changes. And ultimately, if you did this again and again and again, you would get this curve that is, while being applied to light and energy, is actually also being able to be applied to this mechanics problem with the marble. And this curve is known as a Bachistachrone or Tachistachrone curve. This is Greek for shortest time and same time. Now, the scale invariant axis I've mentioned in previous videos, that is one of the angles, so the angle of incident that we would see, so light striking a mirror or a lake, that is one of the layers. And as we ascend or descend in our awareness of self, because again, the subconscious is always, a lake is always used as a metaphor, because it's true. The subconscious and other places, other people, act as mirrors to what it is we are not aware of ourselves, what lessons we need to learn. And this curve shows that with the same time, where no matter where a mass is released along this curve, it's going to end up at the omega point of fully expended energy at the same time. This is divine timing. It's that no matter what you do, you awaken or achieve enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, when you're meant to. There are no wrong choices. There are choices that have consequences, yes, but everything is in its divine timing. And this alpha and omega point are ultimately, just think it's, they meet in the center. Now, this Bachistachrone curve is the shape that is made when you put a stationary point along the rim of a spinning wheel. Now, this is the cyclical nature of reality. It's also the cycle of reincarnation. And the curve itself is, and by extension, the axis that goes between higher and lower realities, is ultimately just one line along a toroidal field. A toroidal field is just an electromagnetic field. Every being has one. Me, you, our brains and hearts also have two different ones, and even the being known as God has one. Because again, going back to the fractals from earlier, we are made in the image of God as smaller fractal patterns to experience reality, which is ultimately also God. And this is what it means in Revelation when it says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. That's what it's referring to, is that God is everything. And when I say everything, I do mean everything, the good and the bad, because God is ultimately unconditional love. And if something exists, it is worthy of being loved unconditionally. That's not to say that we have to do that, because, we're human. It's something we should aspire to. And as we reach higher levels of consciousness, we can do that. But just because something is either good or bad, it's not exactly it. It's more so that there is something bad that is not reaching its full potential to enact the goodness that it has space to enact. It is clouded by seeing oneself as separate from everything else. That's ultimately what controls the flow of time, our perception of self in relation to the other, and also how much of a wall we have between our conscious and subconscious mind. Because time itself acts as a distributor of space. So the faster the flow of time, the more spatial axes you have access to. And by extension, the higher in density you go or ascend. So we can also apply Isaac Newton's second, so we can also apply Isaac Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration, to the soul itself, with force being external factors that will push us outside our comfort zone, and the mass being the weight of the soul, the weight of what subconscious thoughts we have to process due to trauma in either this life or previous ones. And then the acceleration is how fast we ascend, with friction being our own egoic attachments to maintain control and not going with the flow. So I hope that you found this video enlightening and interesting. And yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next one when I post. Leave a like and a comment if you found it interesting. And I'll catch you later. Peace.